Gentlemen, so on Friday, so long ago, but on Friday we went through and we started doing some practice with balancing chemical equations. So we did balancing chemical equations on Thursday and on Friday. So today we're going to be doing some more practice with balancing chemical equations. On Friday we started a worksheet. It's a 2-day worksheet that we're going to keep working on today. But if we take a look at Friday's activity, it should be this one right here. We were working on this worksheet where we were determining the type of reaction, which can you guys remind me of the 5? I know one of them's right there. What's that first one called? What are the 5 types of reactions? Who remembers one or all?
Synthesis.
Synthesis, perfect.
Combustion.
Combustion, wonderful.
Double
Decomposition.
Double replacement, decomposition. Good. One more.
Single replacement.
Single replacement, awesome, all right. So if we don't remember what those are, make sure we are either looking it up from last week or we're looking it up from our notes from a few weeks ago, or we can ask, just let me know. You should have been through the first 6 problems. If you were able to get through those 6, awesome. If you struggled with those 6, please ask for help. Love to help if I can. We're going to start with part 2 today. So this is where it gets a little bit trickier, and that's why I wanted to do these as separate. Is now we're talking about word problems. So now we have to read the word problem, pull out all of our information that's necessary to solve this balancing chemical reaction. So if we look at this first one, because there's a bunch of them here, there's about 5. So let's look at the first one. It says sulfur, which sulfur is S8, burns an oxygen to make sulfur dioxide gas. So let's figure out what information is going to be important to us during this sentence. So what we need to remember when we're doing this is we have reactants, we have products, and we need to figure out where that arrow or that yield sign goes. So who can identify a reactant or a product or the yield sign? Who thinks they know one or all of them? Somebody tell me a reactant or a product.
Sulfur.
Sulfur. What do we think that is? Is that a reactant or is that a product?
Reactant.
Reactant. And remind me, what does reactant mean? I'm going to put an R. Or which side of the chemical equation is the reactant?
Left.
The left side. That's what we're going to start with as our reactants, is what we start with it before that reaction happens. All right, so we have sulfur is a reactant. Do we have any other reactants or do we have any other products?
Oxygen is also a reactant.
Oxygen is also a reactant. Perfect. Do we have any more reactants or do we have any products? Sulfur dioxide is a product. Perfect. So when I'm looking at this, the first thing I want to look for, just to make my life easier, is going to be where that arrow is. You guys did an awesome job. Those are the 2 reactants making the 1 product. What I would look for first, though, is that arrow to figure out where my reactants are going to start on the left side, telling me what I'm using. And my products are going to be what I'm going to end up with at the very end of this reaction, or what I'm going to make. So when you see this word make right here, that's going to tell you that you have an arrow, or that those on the left side of that make word are going to be your reactants. On the right side are going to be the products. So now we're going to have to put that into a chemical formula. So we're going to take our sulfur, which this one told us S8. So I can just rewrite that right here. We have S8 plus oxygen. Who knows what oxygen is? What's my chemical formula or element symbol for oxygen?
Isn't it just O?
Isn't it O? All right. Everybody agree? Anybody disagree? We all like it? Taking our deafening silence as we all like it. And then we have our arrow, our yield sign. And we're making sulfur dioxide. What is sulfur dioxide?
SO2?
SO2, sulfur, because it's a covalent compound. And sulfur doesn't have a prefix, which means it's just one. And dioxide means two oxygens. SO2. All right. So I really like everything except for one slight issue with oxygen. Anybody see the issue that I have with oxygen?
It's supposed to be O2.
O2. And why are you saying it's O2 and not just O?
Because there's two molecules in oxygen.
Because there's two molecules. And what do we call that? Anybody remember? It's kind of like dioxide, where it's telling us that there's two oxygens. Diatomic for two atoms. Hopefully you remember that word because there are 7 of them. I want all 7. Oxygen is 1. What's another one? Hydrogen is another one.
Nitrogen.
Nitrogen is another one.
Fluorine?
Fluorine. Three more.
Chlorine?
Chlorine.
Bromine?
Bromine.
Iodine.
Iodine. Perfect. There's our 7. Hopefully you remember those. All right. And now we have 2 more things we have to do for this first problem. Now that we're back on track, we have our chemical equation. What we need to do is we need to be able to balance this chemical equation, and we need to identify the type of reaction. So we can do either of them first. Which one do you guys want to do first? Do we want to identify the type of reaction, or do we want to balance?
Balance?
All right, let's balance first. So I'm going to switch colors just so we have a clear change. I'm going to draw my little T-chart or my line that separates my reactants and products. If you want to make it a T-chart to keep your formulas separate. And now we want to write each of our elements on each side. So to make sure we have S on both sides and we have an O on both sides, which means now we just need to identify, do we have the same number on either side? So on our reactant side, how many sulfur atoms do we have?
8.
We have 8. Perfect. How many oxygen atoms do we have on that reactant side? 2. Awesome. On the right side, our product side, how many sulfur do we have? We have 1. Good. And on the product side, how many oxygen do we have? 2. Perfect. Nice job. All right. Do my sulfurs match?
No.
Oh, man. All right. How do I make my sulfurs match? Remember, we have to use multiplication. If I wanted to have the same number on both sides, what number would I have to change on which side? I got to multiply that 1 times 8 for the sulfur on the right side. So if I multiply that 8 here, that gives me 8, which means I have to put this number up here. So now I have 8 sulfur dioxides. Am I done?
No,
Why not?
you have to multiply the oxygen by 8 as well.
Exactly. This oxygen got 8 as well because it's in front of the whole compound. Just like in math class, we distribute, which means now we have 16 oxygens. So my sulfurs match, but now my oxygens, do they match?
No.
No,
No. So how do I make my oxygens match?
multiplying by 8.
Perfect. Multiply this by 8, which gives me 16. And this 8 will go up here as a coefficient. Now my sulfurs and oxygens, everything matches? All right. So now our last thing we need to do, we have to identify the type of reaction. So there were 5 of them. We had synthesis, decomposition, single replacement, double replacement, and combustion. Which one is this one?
Synthesis.
Synthesis. Why are you saying synthesis?
Because the elements were once like apart, but now they're together in the product side.
Exactly. We got 2 separate things on our reactant side. They formed one product, which means it is in fact a synthesis reaction. Synthesis is